Good friends, here's episode 3 of the City Garden. Yours truly, Doc South here, ready to do it for you. Okay. Now remember, 2 and 1 are just a little further back in my Facebook feed, or you'll find them on my YouTube site, probably relatively close together. Just I'd suggest start with number 1, 2, 3, and move your way up. Soon enough, we'll have them all up there for you. Okay, but again, for those of you who like to read a daily installment, well, that's what I'm doing now. You ready? Here we go. This is the City Garden, Part 3. Well, the treatment plant wasn't that far out of town. It sat out near all the tobacco processing plants and the textile mills, just east of town. Nearby, there was also a well-known bacon factory, too. I drove by it and took in the aroma of all that hickory smoke. Boy, I'm here to say that it sure smelled good. I thought how later I might just have a BLT for lunch. With that thought in mind, I turned into the city treatment plant. The gate was open. The gate was open. They closed it at night, but as long as it was daytime, nobody cared much. The gate stayed open for daylight hours. I saw John over at the far end of the parking lot driving around on one of those lawn tractors that have the carry-all back on them. You know the kind. They look almost like they're a miniature pickup truck. John saw me before I could sneak up behind him and blast my horn. Darn it. He smiled and hollered howdy as I stopped my car and got out. It was okay for me to park right where I was, so I locked everything up and hopped in onto the lawn tractor. We peeled out about as hot as a lawn tractor could peel. Sorry to say that we didn't leave that much of a patch, though, on the blacktop. No. We went through the gate and headed down the road to the treatment grounds. We went beside and alongside these really big concrete and steel tanks. They were shaped kind of like those oil storage tanks us passengers used to see from the train when we'd all ride through the oil refineries just south of Philadelphia on our way down south. Only these tanks were open on top, as near as I could tell. Sort of hard to see, but you got the feeling. John said they were holding tanks. He might have called them settling tanks. I kind of forget. Whatever they were called, they sure were big. I think that up on top of them, sprinkler pipes moved around like hands on a clock and sprayed partially treated sewage water onto a bed of gravel. I think the gravel or sand in the tank filtered out some of the solids out of the water and out of the sewage and made it a bit cleaner in the process. I don't think you'd want to drink the water going into that tank just yet, but it was getting cleaner certainly by the time it came out the bottom of those tanks. Again, like I said, though, I don't think a sip would be in order. Not just yet. No. Then we went to some of the settling basins. They took up about an acre or two. Make that maybe 3 or 4 acres. The Carolina sun was beating down on them pretty hard. I'm thinking that the settling basin's job was to put it politely, get some of the solids to settle out of the water so they wouldn't grind down the pumps that the sewage water would be going through pretty soon as part of the process. It's your guess or mine as to what that solid stuff was. Since ladies might be reading this, let's just say that whatever it was that was hitting bottom in that section in that tank was no stranger to bottoms. Okay, I'll leave it at that. One of those settling tanks was dry, and a bucket loader crew was removing what looked to be dirt. Oddly enough, that dirt didn't smell half bad. I guess that goes to show what a little sunlight can do, huh? There was a spot in the plant that I'll always remember. John told me it was his job to keep an eye on it and to keep it as clean as possible. We drove up to a large pipe near the fence on the city side of the street, of the plant, rather. I'm sorry, not the street, the plant. I'm thinking of that song, Sunny Side of the Street. Yeah, we weren't at the sunny side of the street. No, not right at this point. This is where it was all coming in from town. Anything but sunny. Anyway, if I remember right, the large pipe had a rectangular cross section and to it, and then there was a trough. I'd say it was about 30 feet long. On the end of the trough, nearest the plant, there was this very large pipe that led into a good-sized building. In the trough, I could see these rows of what looked to be rakes. The rakes nearest the town were large and had a wide space between the tanks. The rakes got smaller and had less distance between the tanks as they got closer to the plant entrance. Eventually, I saw a kind of screen where the outside water made one last pass before it disappeared into a large and dark pipe that waited inside the plant. John said that this was the catch screen assembly. All the water from town had to pass through it. He mentioned how he couldn't believe some of the stuff that came through it sooner or later. To this day, no one knows. No one knows how half a sofa ever made it up to the screen, but it sure did. Body parts came by every now and then, yes. John didn't mind that kind of thing too much, being as he was a squad member, but still. The police were always coming in to pick up guns and drug evidence. You name it, if it was flushed down to John, in due time, my friend would sooner or later be loading it into his carryall. Just as we were about to go, John pointed out what looked to be about 5 Playboy magazines floating by us, and as they crashed right into the second screen. They were too soggy to gawk at. I guess we had enough to see because the centerfolds had come loose and floated past the rest of the magazines and got stuck up on a few of the catch hooks. Seemed like a bad way for such pretty girls to wind up, don't it? Man. By gosh, though, if we didn't almost forget that we had to pay our respects to Huang and see what he was up to. John told me to hop back on the rig and we'd be there quick as pie. I had to admit this was one heck of a tour. We really only had to motor across the parking lot to a low-frame building that, well, wasn't much bigger than a 2-car garage. Huang was waiting at the door, smiling and waving. I guess he had his share of visitors throughout the day, but this time he had guests coming. I told John I bet Huang had tea ready for us. John said, well, we should be sure it's tea we're drinking and not some sample he was testing. He said it's pretty hard to tell the difference until it's way too late. I figured that sewage would sort of give you a hint that it wasn't tea as soon as you got it close to your face, and then all you'd have to do is hit your own personal stop button. John thought still, if you were really thirsty or hit a bump while driving the cart and one of those containers in your hand, well, bad things could happen. Well, we both agreed that if Huang offered us any tea, we'd drink it real slow. Well, there you go, friends. The City Garden, that was part 3. Oh, we got a bunch more parts for you before it's all said and done. We'll see you later. Bye now.